there be no doubt when Jesus returns if it was him and if this was the second coming. Jesus said it will be as obvious as a lightning strike that can be seen from east to west, as obvious as when you see vultures circling, you know there's a carcass below. Verse 29, immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Is that literally going to happen? I don't know. I have no reason to believe that's not a literal statement. What I'm going to say is, again, this is unmistakable. Listen, if the sun is darkened, that's hard to mistake, right? The few times I've been around in the world when there's been a solar eclipse and it got dark in the middle of the day, that was odd. The moon will not give its light. Listen, if there's no moon, you'll notice stars will fall from the sky. We're not just talking about shooting stars by the few. It's not a meteor shower. This is the stars literally falling from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. That, to me, is, I think the point, and whether this is literal or metaphorical, I don't know, but I think the point is, it's going to be unmistakable. This will not be like any time you have ever known. Verse 30, at that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. What's the sign of the Son of Man? Well, he goes on to say, they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. One of the things he says here is that all the nations will mourn. I have my theory on that. Here's why I think all the nations will mourn. Is because their agenda will end, not completed. There's lots of different agendas in the nations of the world. I don't care what the agenda is, it will become moot as Jesus returns. There's several reasons people will be that sad that they will mourn when they see Jesus return. One is our agenda, our hopes, our dreams, our programs. The second thing is, not only will they end, but it's going to become obvious they didn't matter. They weren't the point. They weren't eternal. And then there will be those who, when they see Jesus return, I think, because the gospel will have been preached to all people groups, I think there are going to be people within those people groups that when Jesus returns, they will mourn because they had heard the gospel message, the good news, and it didn't matter to them. They rejected it. And now, too late. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. Don't you think for a minute that it will be anything less than the most dramatic thing that has ever happened in all of time. The greatest special effects masters in the world will never be able to replicate what it will be like to see Jesus coming in the clouds with great power and great glory. Again, this will be unmistakable. The book of Revelation has a passage where Jesus comes as a conquering king on a great white horse. That image is, I have a picture in my head what that would look like. And there's, in terms of majesty and power, there is no picture that compares. Verse 31, and he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call. It's not like, what's going on? It's like somehow everyone will hear the loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Okay. Some people point to that and say, there it is. Jesus tells us there will be a rapture. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the concept and the term rapture, where when Jesus returns, he will take all of his people, the elect. Again, remember, well, you can define it however you want to, but I've shared my definition of the elect are those who have said yes to Jesus on his terms. They will, according to these are called premillennialists, brain belch there again, that they will be taken up, physically taken up into the clouds with Jesus and his angels. Those left behind will experience the horrors of what will happen after that, which is called the tribulation. Might happen that way. I also think that what Jesus is talking about here is that those who have been faithful to the end, remember where he said, where is it here? Those who stand firm to the end will be saved. He could be talking about these people, and that when he returns, he will send his angels, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. No saved person will be excluded. Will the others be left for a period of tribulation? I don't know. Jesus doesn't really talk about that here. I don't know how to figure all this out. So I'm going to let you decide what you think about this. There are several ways to interpret all of this. One is called the dispensationalism, and would be pre-tribulational premillennialists. Now, the millennium is referred to in the book of Revelation as a 1,000-year period where Jesus reigns. There's, even within this premillennial view, there are several different, what would I call it, flavors. Then there are post-tribulationalists who believe that, we've already been through the tribulation. We've already been through the millennium. Post-millennialists. I'm not sure. Doesn't seem to work for me. And I'm sure there are shades of flavor within that. And then there's amillennialism, that believes the millennium has not happened, that they essentially, one of the beliefs of this group is that there will not be a rapture, that the signs of the times have been happening throughout history from AD 33 forward, and that one day when he comes, it will all end. But it has little to do, nothing to do actually, with the millennium. Man, it's horribly confusing to me. At times, I think it's irrelevant. I don't know that I can say that, but I will say this. Whichever view you take has nothing to do with whether or not you are saved. I don't think I'll ever forget. I was with my best friend, one of my dearest friends on earth, Danny Hinkle, but this was, oh gosh, almost 50 years ago now. There was a men's gathering of 3 or 4 days in the Kaimishi Mountains, and it was called the Kaimishi Men's Clinic. You go camp out. You were, if you shaved, you were fined. You camped. You had essentially all day and through most of the night. There was preaching and concerts and all kinds of stuff. But it was kind of the chest pounding, and one of the big pieces of it was anti-communist. It was highly political. Well, Danny and I were invited by one of the members of our church in Oklahoma City to go with him. He had a gorgeous pull-behind trailer that was big enough that we didn't get in each other's way. We were sitting at the table. We'd been playing cards, and the subject of the end of the world came up. And I shared with him, I said, I don't know how this is all going to happen. Nobody can know when it's going to happen. And I really don't care. I'm just going to be ready. And he thumped the table with his fist and he said, "Why, this is a matter of heaven or hell." What? I didn't hate the man from that time forward, but I didn't trust him. This is not a matter of heaven or hell. You don't get into heaven by being pre-millennial or millennial or post-millennial. You don't. That's not what gets you in or keeps you out. Only the grace of Christ gets you in, and rejecting it keeps you out. Okay, off the high horse. Verse 32. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as the twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know the summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. This is a hard one for me to interpret well, and here's why. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. All these things? Right, there's one little thing that for me, helps me out in understanding this, because all of these things, I mean, it's not just the destruction of the temple. It's not just the the sacking of Jerusalem. It is also when the trumpet sounds and Jesus returns in all his power and glory. I tell you the truth, this generation, okay, that word can also be for generation, can also be translated race. And here's why I think that matters. Because the race of Israel will not go away. It hasn't gone away. And it will not go away. And it won't until all these things happen. Dude, you got to figure out what you're going to do with that. And then he says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Okay, enough for today. See you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.